welcome to Gathered Together Homestead. Today I'm going to walk through step by step a very simple bread recipe. This is a slicing bread recipe that we have tried and our family really enjoys. So we are in Missouri. It is February 1st. Yesterday I did a lot of outside chores because it was like 60 degrees, and today it's much cooler and it's rainy and we have a lot of snow coming. So one of the things that kind of prompted me to do this is because of the weather. A lot of times when in Missouri, at least, I don't know where you're watching from, but here when there is a significant storm system forecasted, everybody rushes the stores. I'm sure this is everywhere, and gets a lot of things, but the three big ingredients that people get, or items that people get, are bread, milk, and eggs. So obviously on our homestead, if you've watched any of our videos, you will know that we have plenty of chickens, so eggs are not an issue. I don't have to go get eggs. Right now, we do have to purchase milk from the store. Hopefully that will change in the future. But yesterday when I stopped by the store to stock up on a gallon of milk and grab us some coffee creamer, the necessities, I could have almost done a happy dance past the bread because I didn't have to buy it. So today, before the weather comes in, I decided it's a good time to go ahead and get a couple of fresh loaves made. What I love about this is I have not been making bread for years and years. This is a very simple, good starter recipe, and it was foolproof for me. It worked well. And the biggest bonus to this recipe and this bread is, again, it is slicing bread. So our youngest is incredibly picky. Very, very, very picky. One thing that he does eat is peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So if I'm going to take my time to make a homemade, wonderful bread, I really want him to be able to eat it and not fuss about it. And I can say that he has approved this slicing bread. So it's easy and it's Picky Kid approved. So I'm gonna get started here. I do have a KitchenAid mixer. I'm sure you can do this without it. This is what I'm using. This worked for me last time. I have my dough hook fitted on here. Also have the ingredients that I'm going to be using are yeast. Mine is a instant yeast. You can also use an active dry yeast. I have sugar, lukewarm water, butter at room temperature. This is our local raw honey that we get from my brother and sister-in-law. So we will be using that today. That's all that we use is their honey because it is the best. And I have salt, and then course you'll need flour. Now I like to have my little kitchen timer, so I've got that set out as well. You will want to think about a nice warm non-drafty place once we get things mixed up where you would want to set your dough to rise. The other thing that you will need actually as well is plastic wrap. Our house is primarily heated with a wood stove, so I set my dough right over by the wood stove and let it rise there. So I'm going to get started here. I'm going to add my yeast. This is a 2 1/4 teaspoon of instant dry yeast. You can use active yeast, instant yeast. You can use active dry yeast, sorry. So this I'm going to go ahead and add in here. And then I have 1 teaspoon of sugar. We'll add that. And then you do need 1 2/3 cup lukewarm water divided in half. So this is my half that I'll add on in. Now this will sit, this little mixture, just kind of give it a little mix together, will sit. If you are using an instant yeast, this will sit for 5 to 10 minutes until it's foamy. If you're using an active dry yeast, you will let it sit for 15. So I'm going to set my timer and I'll show you what it looks like when it's ready. All right, our house is really warm right now, so it did not take long for this to get nice and foamy. Here, if you can see kind of what it looks like without me dumping it everywhere. Took about 7 minutes for me. This is one of those things that each time it might take me a different time, somewhere between the 5 and 10 minutes, so I just kind of keep an eye on it. Now I'm going to take the other half of my lukewarm water, add it in here, my 1 tablespoon of honey, I don't think I would fuss if I got too much. Honey's so fantastic. Just might mess up my bread. My 1.5 tablespoons of room temperature butter. I do kind of cube this as I take it out of my dish. All right. And my 1 teaspoon of salt. And 4 cups of flour. Now I'm going to knead this with my dough hook on low speed, and I wish, I'll have to pull this out and I'll show you what it looks like because it will change consistency. So it's going to start forming more of a dough. Of course, it's going to come together, it's going to lose that stickiness, and this should take about 6 to 9 minutes. So it will start to pull away from the bowl and get a workable texture where it's not all sticky. Now it's possible that I might have to add more flour if it is too sticky, but as soon as this kind of starts doing what it's supposed to do, I can show you. Okay, as you can see, it is starting to form a dough, still rather sticky. All right, so we definitely have the texture that we're looking for. I am going to let it continue kneading because it is supposed to knead for about 6 to 9 minutes, and we're probably just a few minutes in here. So we'll let it keep kneading.
Time I wake up next to your sweet face. Did you hear the thing go?
No. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and stop kneading. We have a nice dough ball. It's not sticky. Everything looks perfect. So this is a big glass batter bowl. It's from Pampered Chef. I don't get anything from Pampered Chef as far as compensation, but this has a nice lid on it. I'm only showing you this because I love this bowl. Maybe it will help in your kitchen. Maybe you have one. I don't know. But it's important that women who like to be in the kitchen share with each other their favorite kitchen gadgets because maybe there's something great out there that we don't know about. So going to lightly grease this dish. I am not fancy. I just have some butter here that's room temperature. Spread it around in here, and then I'll wipe off the excess just to make sure that I have exactly what I'm looking for here. All right, greased dish set. I'm gonna put this beautiful ball of dough right in here, just right in a ball. Gonna cover it with plastic wrap, and I'm gonna set it right by our wood burning stove, and it's supposed to take 45 minutes or until it doubles in size. Given that our house is currently 82 degrees, it really is. We got windows open even though it's cold outside because that wood stove is phenomenal. So I'm going to set this by the wood stove, and soon as it gets close to that 45 minutes or doubled in size, I will bring it back over here. All right, this is the best spot in the house for your rising dough. At least in our house, it works great. It is nice and warm, and it's going to rise great. Glenn will be doing a video soon on some pros and cons, probably more pros than cons. I don't know, kind of a 411 on wood burning stove heat, things that he's learned and anxious to share. So keep an eye for that. We're going to let this dough rise. My dough has definitely doubled in size. Did not take 45 minutes this time, again, like I thought, because our house is really toasty. I have went ahead and greased my 8x4 glass loaf pan. I'm sure it doesn't have to be glass. This is just what I use. Going to lightly flour a surface here on the counter. And we're going to take this ball of dough out. Going to divide it in half. There are many other things you can use to divide this in half. I'm using a pizza cutter right now because the handy dandy little pastry tool that I have ordered hasn't arrived yet. So I'm going to reserve this second half for my next loaf. I do not plan on putting that loaf in this pan quite yet though. But what we're going to do is I'm going to spread this out gently into a rectangle as much as possible. I try and kind of press it all over to remove any air pockets, and then I'm going to roll it tightly. If you can see. And then I'm going to take these two ends, push them under. Have a nice little loaf, put my seams down, put it right in my loaf pan. I am going to spray my plastic wrap, cover my loaf, and this is going to go for the second rise, so about 45 minutes again or less till it gets puffed up. It'll look kind of like a loaf of bread, of course. Then I'll put it in the oven. So I'm going to get my timer set, get this back by the fire, and let it rise again. While the dough is rising, I'm going to get the oven preheated. 390 degrees is what this recipe calls for. My fingerprints all over that from my little butter moisturizer. The bread has rose, took about 45 minutes. And now I'm going to put it in the oven. I do have some butter set aside that will be melted so that when it's just about done, I can brush the top with melted butter. But this should take about 25 minutes in the oven at 390 degrees. I do have my oven rack set to the lower middle position. We're going to let it get baking. Okay, our homemade slicing bread is done. Look how golden and beautiful that looks. All right, check out our beautiful bread. I'm going to let it sit out for a little while just to cool down for a minute before I start slicing it. And then when I take it out of this dish, I am going to put my other half of the dough in. I put it in the refrigerator while this was going through its second rising. And then when it was baking, I pulled this out so that it would start kind of cooling back down. But the reason I put it in the refrigerator is so that it would not keep rising, because you don't want your dough to get too fluffy where it over rose and it just won't be the right consistency. So now this one will be ready to put in the oven when this one is cooled off for just a second. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel. That way you're alerted as soon as we upload new videos. We do have some really exciting videos coming soon. Thanks and have a great day.